So in 2006, Land Rover replaced the original Freelander with the Freelander 2, and with it they brought in some new engines. And one of those engines was a 2.2 PSA engine. So it was built by Peugeot, Citroën and Ford, and Land Rover nabbed it off them and chucked it in their Freelander. They also put it in some of their Jags, not the same engine as the 2.2 X-Type. It was a little bit more refined than that, but they were used in the Freelanders up until the Freelander finished, and then in 2011 along came the Evoque, and in 2014-15 the Discovery Sport came, and they all use this 2.2 engine. They had a couple of different power outputs, but they use this 2.2 engine. And the Freelander 2 was probably one of Land Rover's most reliable vehicles, and this engine was at the heart of that. They were a good engine, and Peugeot and Citroën, especially at the time, really could make a diesel engine. They were very good. Obviously there's a lot of when you say Peugeot and Citroën, a lot of people, they sort of say, oh, unreliable, but their engines, definitely they made some of the best diesel engines that were around. And in 2015, Euro 6 standards were coming along. Land Rover decided to leave Peugeot and Ford and make their own engine. And the heart of what they were trying to make was a clean running diesel engine that was as environmentally friendly as possible. And I think that is at the heart of where some of these issues are. Manufacturers are trying to make them as light as possible, make the components as small and as easy running as possible, so there's a less friction in the engines. And across the board, I think that is the issue with them now. They're just becoming unreliable because they definitely aren't built how they were. But we'll take you through the engine in this video and some of the common problems in this Ingenium one. But like I say, this was a Land Rover only project. They went it alone, and I think they've got a manufacturing plant in the UK, but it was, I think Tata in India was at heart of the production, and that is the engines that they're using in all their vehicles today. The 2.2 was used in some of the Jags, and now they've gone all over to this 2 litre, and it seems to be used in all of them across the range. They have got a petrol variant, but it is used from right down in the small Jaguar XEs right up into the new Defender. There's even some of those new Defenders has got this tiny little 2 litre Ingenium engine in, which seems completely wrong to me, but that's what it is. But we'll get into the video and we'll get through some of the common issues that we're finding with them now. Welcome back to the channel, and today's video is all going to be based on these things, and this is the 2 litre Ingenium engine that Land Rover and Jaguar released a few years ago now, probably coming up for 9 I think. Yeah, we're just going to go through a few things that happen with these. This is pretty knackered, this engine, so it's going to hopefully be replaced under warranty. But I thought we're going to just flick through a few bits and pieces on it, and then we're going to hopefully give you some helpful pointers and tips on keeping your one a bit more healthy than what we think the standard sort of service intervals provide. But we'll just go through a couple of bits now and show you some of the common things and common issues that we come across with them. So first of all, timing chains, obviously very common, as we all know. There's also balance shafts, which we'll show you in this video. And I thought I'd show you the oil drive down there, which is the front crank pulley sandwiches that little pulley, and that drives the oil pump. That little pulley spins, oh, you can't see what I'm saying. That little pulley there spins freely, and it's purely sandwiched by the crank pulley, which drives the oil pump, which is here. And that oil pump has also got a solenoid on it, so it's variable pressure controlled. I can't get my words out, but it's got a solenoid on it to control it. We've got glow plugs down, buried underneath here. Now on these rear wheel drive ones, they aren't actually too bad to get off. I'm just going to grab a torch, and you can see the glow plugs are there. You can get to these, like I say, on these rear wheel drive ones. On the front wheel drive ones, we tend to take the manifold off, or you can pull the front off. There's a few ways to do it. And down here is a piston cooling jet solenoid, which we will go into in depth in the video. That little red tab on the plug there. The thermostat normally comes out the way to get to them. Again, this is a rear wheel drive one, and I believe the thermostat, and that's, well, it is different. They're laid out slightly differently, so you can, it's a little, I'd say it's probably a little bit more work on the front wheel drive ones. To be honest with you, I'm going through this with you, and don't get me wrong, I've done a few of these, but to be fair, one of our other lads has done a lot more of these than I have. So it'd probably be more interesting for him to talk to you about it. DPFs, these ones tend to rattle, and they also can throw a fault code for being damaged on the rear wheel drives, but they are not as common as the front wheel drive ones for going wrong. Turbos do go, and we have put one injector, I think 1 or 2 injectors in these. Not massively common, although I do think that the injectors wearing are causing a bit of an issue on the high milers for oil dilution. Exhaust temperature sensors also fail on the rear drive ones again, so you've got to imagine, sorry, on the front wheel drive ones. Actually, we have got one in front of me, hang on. Behind me is one of these engines in a car with the subframe off, which is actually handy because I can show you what we are talking about. So you've got exhaust temperature sensors here, and there's some at the top that are a bit fiddly. They're quite common. Now, while this one is off, you can see that cooling jet solenoid is up there. I think you can get a wobble in there and get it off without taking the thermostat out, but the thermostats leak on these, so it's well worth just putting the seals in while you're there. Not really had any issue with starter motors too much yet. And then you have got, so this is 2-wheel drive, not 4-wheel drive, but the 4-wheel drive ones has a transfer box bolted onto them here, and the seals leak, quite common. This is the EGR cooler. Now, DPFs on these are very common, and I believe this one has been done. Does look pretty clean, so I'm sure he said it had it done fairly recently. Now, there is a low pressure EGR pipe. Sorry about the sort of glare on the torch, by the way. That's the LED light torch, but if I can take it away, you can sort of see what I'm doing. But there is this EGR cooler here. Now, that EGR cooler, that feeds from the exhaust pipe here. If you notice, this is after the DPF. So this pipe should always be pretty clean. The exhaust gases come up here, go around, and then go into this little thing here, which is the EGR cooler. And what we're finding is we're getting fault codes relating to low flow on the EGR cooler. There is a little gasket in here, which hopefully I can find a picture of one we've done before and put it in this video, but they block up. Now, the only way that they can block up is if exhaust soot gets in them. Now, there shouldn't be exhaust soot in that pipe because you've got a DPF which is collecting the DPF, the exhaust soot. So when you get that EGR low flow code, it tends to mean pretty much all the time that the DPF is cracked, and the DPF is cracked and exhaust gases flow through the DPF, get past it because it's cracked, go into this pipe, go into the EGR system, and then block that filter. One of the telltale signs, and I've got a feeling that this car will show it, is putting your fingers in the exhaust and see if it's sooty. Now, obviously, looks like it's had a DPF, so it probably was cracked, and then that's why the tailpipes are sooty. So just sort of trying to explain a few things, so when a lot of people come to us, they can see what we're talking about on this video. They're not horrendous jobs, but obviously the subframe's off this, so we can see it a lot better, which is quite handy for this video. And this is the rear-wheel drive version, and this is obviously the front-wheel drive version, or the four-wheel. A lot of these are on four-wheel drive as well, so this one will have a transfer box and be four-wheel drive, but it's the transverse engine, not the longitudinal one. This is a four-wheel drive, and these drive shafts go through the sump, which makes it a bit of a pain. But this one has bottom end damage, and it has also got liner damage. Tends to happen more the cylinder wear liner damage, which hopefully I can put some photos up of now. That tends to happen more on the twin turbo ones, but I've only ever really seen it badly on the rear wheel drive ones anyway. So it does happen on the single turbo rear wheel or longitudinal engines, and I've seen it quite bad on a single turbo Jag, but I have never seen it that bad on the front wheel drive one. So I don't know if that's just coincidence or not. But other than that, they're a great engine. When you pretty much take most of the most of the failures into account. We also have seen charge coolers going. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but hopefully, yeah, we're just basically rambling on about Ingenium engines. Remember that piston coolant jet, because that's going to come up in subject soon, or in conversation soon. And yeah, we'll get into the video and we'll show you some of the work we've done. We're going to show you a Jag we took the engine out of it. We did timing chains, balance shafts and engine mounts, and that will be included. We don't normally take the engines out for timing chains, but when we're doing the balance shafts, so the balance shafts are at the front and the timing chains are at the back, and we don't really like taking the fronts off them Jags. They're a bit of a pain. We find by the time you've stripped all the gearbox out to the chain, it's not much more work to get the engine out, and then you can crack on and do it. And there is a little bit of a story. So we're going to show you the engine, and I'm going to tell you the story now before you actually see the job. So we put a timing chain on this Jaguar, and we also did another, well, we normally do about 2 a week. We actually didn't do any last week, and we've only got 1 in this week, which is unheard of. Not sure why, because January, I suppose. We've genuinely normally got at least 2 of these in here a week. We're averaging about 10 a month. They are common for going. Anyway, we did, I'm digressing now, but we did this Jaguar timing chain, which we're going to see in the video. That's just to make it clear, this isn't this engine, this is a completely different car, and this is months on. I think it was April we did it. And customer had it a few months, no problem, gave it back to them, and we were buying the sealant from Land Rover. We use the same stuff, but we buy in a bigger tube now. But we used this sealant, and this is the sealant. So you've got like I've just seen it laying around, so I thought I'd show you, but it's like a graphite-y colour. But it's cheaper to buy in a bigger tube. Loctite make it. Anyway, we sealed this Jag up. A few months later, he had quite a bad oil leak. So he come back in, and one of our technicians, Andy, whipped the gearbox out and found that it was leaking from the timing cover. And we've never actually had one leak from the timing cover before. And then we had another one leak from the timing cover. When he pulled the timing cover off, the sealant just hadn't gone off. Now, a lot of people say you need to leave them overnight before, putting the oil in, which, to be honest with you, we normally do. We sort of agree with that. We normally get most of the job done in the day one, and then the second day is putting it back together. Well, this one had the engine out, and the engine didn't go back for about 3 or 4 days, so it definitely had time to cure. Didn't go off. And then we had another one doing the same thing. The sealant was just wet. You could take the timing cover off, you could wipe it off. It was just didn't go off. It's supposed to, it doesn't ever go hard, this sealant. It still stays fairly soft, but it does go off, and it just hadn't. And it went on back order, the sealant, and I'm pretty sure, I heard through the grapevine, that there was just a bad batch, and we got caught out, so 2 of them we had to redo. We checked another one, we did call another one back in, because we thought you'd use the same sealant, but that one seemed to be all right. We didn't do anything with that, and it seems to be fine, and in fact it popped in for a look at today, because it's going on a massive journey. And it was fine. So yeah, a bit of a strange one, but it actually, yeah, it come back because of oil leak. And in fact, I think I took some footage of it at the time, so I'll include that, hopefully, if we get time as well. And also, excuse the mess, I moved the engine for the camera and spilled oil all over the floor, so that's got to be swept up in the morning. Right, so we've got this 2017, I believe it is. Jaguar's got a private plate on it. Typical Ingenium diesel, the timing chain's gone. We're not 100% sure on the balance shafts on this engine, but this has also got another issue, which is quite common, more common on the Jaguars. But if we start the car up, you can hear the extended crank time, because I think I've got a feeling the timing has actually jumped a tooth on this. You can hear the horrendous noise the timing chain's making, but don't know if you can hear, or well, obviously we can feel the vibration, but the exhaust, this one is actually a bit calmer. I'm going to give it a little rev. There we go. See that horrendous vibration, hear that noise. We actually suspect that the engine mounts are faulty on this one. So yeah, we're going to get some diagnosis doing. It's got an engine light on. and it has got, it won't focus, but 91,000 on it. So yeah, we're going to get to stripping it down and find out what this one needs. Right, so obviously with that vibration issue, what's quite common on these is these engine mounts. They are vacuum controlled and they split and they cause that sort of vibration through the exhaust. So we're using just a MITI, what's called a MITI vac. All this is a vacuum gauge. When you pump it, it pulls a vacuum through this device and through this tube. So it will tell us if there's any vacuum leaks. So just gonna hook this up to this one first, and then as you can see, that is not holding a vacuum at all. It's just slowly going up. So that one is confirmed to be faulty. And then if we go over to the other side, passenger side of the vehicle, to be honest with you, it is best to change these in pairs anyway. Obviously there's an additional cost, but I'm just going to put the connector on now. And then if we watch the gauge, let's bring the torch back a little bit. If we watch the gauge, again, that one is not holding a vacuum at all. So that confirms that both engine mounts are faulty. And this isn't uncommon. When you get this vibration, it is normally both of them, to be fair. So yeah, we'll get on to the customer and speak to him about that. There's also a slight oil leak from the front cover as well. So yeah, we're just going to talk to the customer about whether he wants just a chain done or the balance shafts as well. But the balance shaft sits behind there anyway. So we'll get onto the customer and see what he wants to do. So we had the chat with the customer, and the customer has decided that while we're doing the work, he wants a lot done. So there's a couple of other little bits he wanted doing. There's a brake warning light, a couple of other bits, but we are doing the balance shafts on it. We're doing the timing chain, and we're also doing the engine mounts, which are here. The parts are here. So Kobe's been taking the gearbox out. We've made the decision on these when we're doing the balance shafts to take the engines out. Land Rover manual says to take the front end off, but when you're doing the timing chain and the balance shafts, or just the balance shafts, because you've got to take the timing chain out anyway, it is so much quicker and therefore cheaper for the customer to just take the engines out, because by the time you pulled the front off, have to put it all back together, all the aircon components, couple more seals on the aircon condensers and things like that. It's a bit of a headache. So we've decided as a company, when we're doing the Jaguars that are rear wheel drive or the Land Rovers that are rear wheel drive, if we're doing balance shafts as well as the gearbox, we're just going to whip the engine out. It really doesn't take loads longer to get the engine out. It takes a little bit longer to get it back in and bleed everything, etc. But that's the way we've decided to do it. So Kobe is just going to get the gearbox out. I'm just going to give him a hand lowering it down, and then we'll get the engine out. And then what we've got to make sure of is that the torque converter comes out with the gearbox, and that the flex plate comes away from the floor like so. They can be a pain and they can get caught, which you want to which you want to avoid. And yeah, go back and start letting it down. And then what we will do, we will strap this to the engine, the transmission jack, just so that we don't have to lift it off because it's heavy, just to save it, and we'll whip the engine out. Right, so that's the engine out. We made a stand for these. Well, it's actually a BMW, but we've adapted it to fit these engines. So now it's just a case of stripping all the front of this off to get, sorry, the back of this off to get to the upper timing chain, the flex plate off. And as you can see, this has never been touched, and this is a real problem on these, especially after timing chains have been done. This has got an oil leak from this. They're an absolute nightmare to try and seal. We've got a new method of trying to seal them up, but we have had some problems with them. And I know a load of Land Rover garages have as well. If you follow the Land Rover procedure, you end up with a leak. The balance shafts will need all of this stripping off, and the balance shafts go in from here, and you'll see when we get to the tools while we've taken the engine out, it's either front of the vehicle off or engine out, and we've decided to do the engine out because it's quicker. But all the charge cooler, all these pipes, and this back cover on this pulley needs to come out, so we'll get that stripped out and we'll come back in. So we've got the covers off the engine now, and these two bolts here are for the balance shafts. So this is why we sort of recommend doing them at the same time, because you've got to get to this point before you can do the balance shafts anyway. So if it's on a reg that falls under the faulty balance shafts, which this one is, it just seems mad not to do it. They go in. I haven't cleaned this side off, but the front cover comes off. I haven't cleaned them off, so you can't, it's a bit dirty, but the balance shafts are there and they go in that way, and there's a special plate that goes over here to time them up. So we'll show you all them tools and we'll get on with it. But yeah, so this is why the front of the car would have to come off, because the balance shafts are fairly long, probably come up to about here anyway. So you wouldn't get them out. So it's either front of the car off or taking the engine out, which if you're doing the timing chain anyway, what is the point? You might as well just pull the engine out. So that's where we're at the moment, and we'll show you the tool when we set up. So unfortunately, we're going to try and get these videos to 20 minutes, so it means we've gone just over that, and you are going to have to come in next time for the carrying on with that. Sorry, I know there's an awful lot of talking at the beginning of it, but we're just sort of trying to explain it all, and hopefully just the next bit of the video, which will be part 2, you'll see a lot more repairs. Don't know what we can cram into that, but I'm hoping to go through the balance shafts, the timing chains, and the new engine mounts going in, and charge cooler issues that we've seen before, and some DPF issues and EGR cooler filters. So we'll get that video up as quick as we can. Hopefully next week it'll be up, and hope you enjoyed this one. Let us know if you think we can improve on anything, and we will see you in the next one.